Welcome to my next Lost. Season 5 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important, if you aren't caught up to the point where I am at rewatching or watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, if you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen the TV series Lost 3 other times. It's in my top 5 favorite TV series of all time. I would say number 3. But I'm not the only one that's currently watching Lost. The legendary Crazy Coffee Man is who you see in my comment section for Dexter, Dexter Original Sin, Dexter New Blood, Breaking Bad, Lucifer, and some physical media related videos, is actually watching Lost for the very first time. So join us on the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show. But I don't want to see any spoilers in the comment section past this episode. So with all that said, this will be Lost Season 5 Episode 8. The title of this episode is called LaFleur. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watch the episode. After another time flash, the well at the Orchid site into which Locke had descended into is gone, leaving Sawyer holding a rope that leads into the ground. We already kind of saw this part. Sawyer tries to rescue Locke, but Juliet stops him, pointing out that they are now in a time before the wall was built. And then Miles draws everyone's attention to something in the distance. They look up and see the back of a gigantic statue. Meanwhile, Locke is underground and sets the frozen wheel on its proper axis, sending everyone above through a particularly violent time flash. And then afterwards, all agree that this flash felt different, and noticing that their headaches have faded and their nosebleeds have stopped, they summarize that they are done traveling through time. Sawyer notices the well's wall is in place again, quickly runs over, grabs the rope mechanism, and jumps in feet first, only to find out that the well has been filled in with rocks and earth, and he is standing at the ground level. Sawyer says he's going to wait until Locke comes back. When Juliet asks how long he intends to wait, he responds, as long as it takes. And then we go to what's actually a flash forward, but it looks like a flashback. This episode's kind of confusing because it has the same characters, but in different time frames that are close to each other. In a security center at the barracks, Jerry puts on some music and begins dancing with Rosie. Suddenly, Phil bursts in, angry that the two are neglecting the monitors and worried about what their boss, LaFleur, will say. Jerry attempts to calm Phil, but the two see someone on the monitors by the sonar fence. They identify the person as Horace, who appears to be drunk and throwing lit dynamite into the forest. Okay, Horace, what's up with that? We've seen Horace before in the Ben Being Born episode. Despite their initial reluctance, the pair run to one of the houses and wake LaFleur, the head of security, who turns out to be Sawyer. So this technically is set in the future, a few years, with Sawyer being the head of security on the island, going by the name of LaFleur. He finds out about Horace having dynamite and says, "Son of a bitch." Sawyer collects Miles, also a security officer, asking, "Did you bring your zapper?" And then the two drive out to the sonar fence where they retrieve a passed out Horace. Sawyer takes the man back to his home where Sawyer is greeted by Horace's wife, Amy. As Sawyer explains what happened, Amy goes into labor. "Oh, hell," Sawyer says. They seek out Daniel. This is in the flashback, I guess, who is looking stunned, staring at the ground, and repeatedly mumbling, "I won't tell," when asked where Charlotte is. Daniel explains she died then vanished during the last flash. Sawyer decides that they will head back to the beach to see if their camp is there, or build a new one if necessary. though Juliet notes that they don't really have much of a plan. However, when Miles starts to rant whether they'll go to the beach and back to the Orchid and repeat again, Juliet supports Sawyer, later telling the latter that she supported him despite his plan being a bad one, because otherwise the team would be arguing forever. On the way to the beach, they hear gunshots moving toward them. They see a clearing with two others standing over a woman and a dead man. Sawyer and Juliet move out, rifles at the ready, and Sawyer tells them to put their guns down. One of them fires at Sawyer and is immediately shot by Juliet. The other is then shot by Sawyer. The woman introduces herself as Amy and convinces them to bury the bodies of the two others and carry Paul, her dead husband, back. As Daniel Faraday approaches the sonic fence, Juliet yells for him to stop. Amy pretends to disable the fence, removes or manipulates an object hidden behind a keypad, subsequently revealed to be earplugs, and walks through. Sawyer, Jin, Juliet, Daniel, and Miles follow and are knocked out by a high-pitched noise. Amy removes the earplugs from her ears, revealing how she passed through unaffected. Then back to our flash forward, but it's weird, where Sawyer works at the island as this head of security. In the infirmary, the doctor reminds Sawyer, aka LaFleur, that the baby is in a breech position and a C-section is needed. The doctor explains that the Dharma women always deliver on the mainland, and he is inexperienced with such an operation. Sawyer heads to the Dharma motor pool, where Juliet, who still is on the island well beyond her initial 2-week promise to Sawyer, is working as a mechanic. Juliet initially objects, saying that she and Sawyer had a deal, but ultimately agrees to do the procedure, even though the doctor is uncomfortable with the arrangement. And then continuing on with this flash forward, outside the infirmary, Sawyer waits for the news of the baby. Jin, who now speaks pretty fluent English, shows up and reports that their grid searches continue, even though they still haven't found any of their people. Juliet emerges and joyfully says that Amy gave birth to a boy. What is the name of this boy? We'll find out in another episode. Ethan. Sawyer wakes up in the barracks recreation room and is questioned by Horace. So this is back to the flashback. Sawyer introduces himself as Jim LaFleur and invents the cover story that his group was on a salvage boat that wrecked while searching for the Black Rock. Horace tells Sawyer that the group will have to leave the next morning on the submarine. He explains that only members of the Dharma Initiative are allowed inside the compound, and that Sawyer and the rest of his group are not Dharma material. The rest of the group is assembled somewhere outside at late evening, where they are talking about their situation. Miles is concerned, but Juliet is confident that Sawyer can deal with Horace. When asked what she is looking at, she points to the house she used to live in for more than 3 years. Miles asks her if she was a member of the Dharma Initiative, which she denies. She mentions that the Purge, which was also before her arrival on the island. Daniel Faraday still seems to be a little confused, but then he sees a little girl whom he guesses to be young Charlotte. Suddenly, the alarm sounds and everyone takes cover in their houses, or takes for cover. The group is brought inside one of the houses where an armed woman is to look after them. As Sawyer and Juliet start to look out the window, a man with a burning torch, revealed to be Richard Alpert, strolls into the middle of the compound. Horace goes to speak to him and then returns, anxiously asks Sawyer and the crew how well they buried the bodies. Sawyer says the bodies may be found if searched for thoroughly enough, and then he goes outside, ignoring Horace's objections, and tells Richard that he is responsible for killing the two men, and then asks if they buried the bomb. He mentions Richard meeting with Locke 20 years earlier and tells him that he and his people aren't with the initiative, meaning that the Dharma's truce with the others hasn't been violated. After getting the story of what happened to his people, Richard tells Sawyer that they still require justice. Sawyer returns and tells Horace the others want Paul's body. Horace and Sawyer go to talk to Amy, telling her that they'll face whatever they need to if she does not want to give up the body. She agrees to give it up, but takes a necklace from around her husband's neck first. As Sawyer leaves the room, Horace tells him that they can stay for 2 weeks when the submarine is scheduled to return to the island. At the dock by the submarine, Juliet tells Sawyer that Locke has already saved them, noting that the flashes have stopped and that they are no longer sick, so there is no need to wait for him. She explains that she has been trying to get off the island for over 3 years and that she intends to be on the submarine in the morning, despite Sawyer convincing Horace otherwise. Sawyer, however, talks her into staying initially for 2 weeks until the next submarine trip. And then Sawyer strolls through the barracks and picks up a flower. He returns to the house he now shares with Juliet. This is in the flash forward. As she prepares dinner, he gives her the flower and tells her that she was amazing today. And then they declare their love for each other and share kisses. Okay, so Sawyer goes from Kate and now is heavily involved with Juliet. Attaboy. Horace wakes to find a Sawyer watching over him. This is our flash forward. Sawyer asks Horace how his head feels, leaving Horace to respond, "It hurts." Sawyer informs him that he missed the birth of his son and inquires about the fight between Horace and Amy that led Horace to pass out in a drunken stupor. Horace said he found the necklace, which had belonged to Paul, among Amy's things, leading Horace to think that he's unsure if 3 years is enough time for Amy to get over Paul. Sawyer tells of his love for a girl with whom he had a short but reluctantly lost his chance. She has been gone for 3 years, and though he had difficulty forgetting her in the beginning, he finds now that he barely remembers her face. Sawyer states that 3 years is absolutely enough time to get over someone. Sawyer and Juliet are asleep in bed when they are awakened by a phone call. Jin is calling with urgent news, and as Sawyer gets dressed, he doesn't tell Juliet the nature of the emergency. He drives his blue Dharma Jeep out to the North Valley alone and waits for Jin to arrive in a Dharma van. They park their vehicles opposite one another, and the van's passengers emerge. First Hurley, then Jack, and finally Kate. Sawyer is shocked to see his friends and takes off his glasses in disbelief. He had just got done telling Horace that he likes someone. She's been gone for 3 years. He's over her. Once he sees her, he's clearly not over her. But that's what ends this episode of Lost. So, pretty good episode. A little confusing because kind of the same characters are in both parts of the episode, but different roles. So, I'm going to give the episode an 8.4 out of 10. My characters of the episode are going to be Sawyer, Juliet, and Horace. I love Jack and Kate at the end and Hurley, but they didn't do much in the episode. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash the like button, share the video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of Lost. What would you rate it, and who would you choose as a character of the episode? Remember, you're going to be interacting with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man. I don't want to see any spoilers, but let's talk about the episode. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.